talking about?
There's no destination. I seen it on his face. I said, you're walking around with a spoon and a knife in your hand. You're
On a Real Talk Baltimore. That's Real Talk with Christina Flowers.
I said, so you stay right here. I'm gonna be right back. You said, see, this is advocacy in its purest form. You don't go look for it. You go out there and you find it. We need people to go out there and find them. Not them wait until something happened to them and then we're picking them up off the ground, trying to build it back up. No, we really go
They serious about homeless people.
When do they get homeless? I say that because you look at people in rent court, you look at people dealing with evictions, you look at people that hit hard times, and just like you said, Kiara, a house fire. I mean, I've dealt with people in this past 3 years, had a house fire, Red Cross gave them a place for 3-4 days, and then it was like, what's next? Like, they're not patient enough. They're different agencies. We have different agencies in the city that supposed to deal with different situations, but when these individuals hit a brick wall in a situation, no one is volunteering giving resources. Like a person don't know if you go over here, you know, you could get A, B, and C, and if you go over here. But when we're dealing with the homeless individuals, this is where the corruption gets in because we're duplicating services. We have when I look down on the Causeway today, we're dealing with people that's been down there 2-3 years. Some of them been housed and then back down there. Because of course, once you get into housing, you have another whole issue to deal with.
Because now you're dealing with people that's not getting the income that they think that they're receiving. So now when they get into the house, they're receiving not even half of a portion of the
Serious
rent.
about the homeless.
Not even a quarter of it.
She like to help the homeless.
They're living their lives off of, and it's not enough. So of course, when a person don't have enough, not enough for him to sustain himself, then he can be, and that's called a barrier. And that barrier can become emotionally overwhelming for male and females. I have witnessed in both.
And the barriers that come is the barriers that is there. Again, 410-481-1010. Do call in, chime in, family, because again, this is Real Talk Baltimore. This is your host, Miss Christina Flowers, and it's hashtag they're homeless but not invisible. When you see that hashtag, you know it's me, you know it's us, because somewhere along the way, we have to trigger people mindsets to understand that the solution can be within us. You know, if I can be creative and house over 400 individuals in the matter of 3 years, I'm not a funded program, never been a funded program. I was a vendor on a program, which ended up horrible because that program was clueless of what it took to end homelessness. I mean, this was a program to where it is structured around substance abuse. I mean, this program totally, like the pilot that we put together for emergency housing in Baltimore City,
right,
to allow the program to implement it was the biggest mistake because this program had no history when it comes to emergency housing. And I know this for a fact, but they were unable to sustain the individuals that needed. You know, when we put this pilot together, it was to make a difference in individuals' lives, like make sure that they can go from point A to point B. But their mindset was, oh, let's make it a shelter. Shelter? Come on, like why in our minds that we think a shelter is the only solution to help people? Like a shelter, the issues in the shelter is so, I'm gonna use the word. Look,
let me beat you to it.
You took my word. I didn't think my word like that. But we're talking about a deplorable situation that it's not nothing that people is gonna volunteer. And you can't even, and some of the time when you go into the shelters, it's like you're in prison. You know, you listen to some of the issues and the stories from shelters, it's prison. You know, you can't do this, you can't do that. You know, look at Ms. D. Ms. D said they was doing this, they was doing that. But it's like nowhere from that level of listening. And I say this because I have been in probably over 20 meetings with our city council people. I've been in meetings, from meetings to meetings to meetings. And somewhere along the way, you know, they never look at the importance or the priority that, you know what, you know, Everybody have different gifts. You know, I may have the housing gift. So where's the wraparound services? I can bring people in and house them with the partnerships and the relationships that I have with different landlords, that I have with different individuals that do housing. But when it comes to that wraparound services, if your organization don't look like an organization that HUD or the Mayor's Office of Homeless Services want to recognize, then you're not, in their eyesight, you're not suitable enough to be awarded a grant.
Qualified.
Or you're not qualified yet. You're not qualified enough to be a quote-unquote city service provider. When yesterday, and I'm going to put this out here, yesterday a young lady walks into my office, and it's funny because I was in a meeting, I think, with you guys, and I seen the people coming in, bringing all the bags, and like, Miss Flowers a helper. So, of course, by the time I came out, I'm like, what's going on? She was like, I just got kicked out. And I'm like, you just got kicked out? And she like, yeah, I got caught smoking in the bathroom. And I said, okay, what was you smoking? She said, a cigarette. So I said, where you come from? She said, Recovery Network. I said, Recovery Network, you was smoking a cigarette, you wasn't smoking a blunt, you wasn't hitting a pipe or something, so they put you out for smoking a cigarette. I say, wait right there. So let me tell you how advocacy do work. I went in the office, I started calling some folks. I said, let me find a director, somebody in charge of this agency that just put this young lady out. And by the time I got to the director, you know, I heard, you know how you hear on the phone, people hold on, Miss Flowers. Somebody must have put a bug in his ear. You know Miss Flowers there, she that one on the radio, But by the time I finished on the phone, somebody had called the young lady in my waiting lobby, telling her to come back.
What?
Come back to the office, get out of Miss Flowers' office. And when I said to the director, I said, tell me what part of your contract that you got with Baltimore City says that you can just push somebody out for smoking a cigarette. And when I said that, he was like, what do you mean, a contract? I said, you are funded by Baltimore City, right?
Turn it up.
All right. What part of your program tells you that you can kick this person out for smoking a cigarette?
What?
Well, they know when they come in. No. What part of your program? So by the time I got off the phone, he had called that young lady to come back. Because once people realize, like you said, Archie, eyes is on. You know, the scripture, Hosea 4:6 say, my people are destroyed because of lack of knowledge.
Well, she quote that Bible, too.
Yes,
go ahead, Miss Flowers.
City contracted, yes. You get funding from Baltimore City to provide a service to vulnerable
adults. And we don't even get funding.
Yes, she's in a network recovery, but she was smoking a cigarette. So of course, when I said all that, it made, he was like, whoever called her, she was like, shooting gun. I said, let's go. She said,
what's the company name? Who was it?
And told her to come back around to the office. But just that quick,
drop the name.
They had sued this individual outside. She was in my office with 3 or 4 bags. Homeless. And just don't care. And if nobody never picked up the phone or nobody never said, if I never took my time and I was never knowledgeable of what takes place in some of these
Flowers didn't want to say the names.
That she was just out. Or they like sent around the corner to Miss Flowers. And I'm in my mind constantly
Tune in Friday, 3 p.m. Taxi Talk.
Like we can't
name.
deal with a vulnerable population of individuals like this and think it's okay. So we gotta be more focused. We gotta become knowledgeable, Baltimore.